Welcome to the Scooter Pitch Podcast. We're here so your ideas don't die in the Notes app. And I'm joined with some very special guests, the Lumebento crew. Everyone, if you want to say hi, introduce yourselves, tell everyone what you do.
Hello, hello. My name is Martial Arts, and I run and operate Lumebento. I also create Penguin Boy, the current story that is being published underneath Lumebento. We got the other two here as well.
Hello, everyone. Boy Stormrave here, back in Adam. I am the creator of Recusant, and I am currently working on the recently announced R Excalibur. Manga artist, what I do.
Awesome.
And I'm number one manga. I am the artist, creator, writer, etc. of Akuronen, and I am current creator of up and coming story Nameless. That's also going to be published under the Lumebento. Nice to see you guys. Nice to meet you.
So great to have you all here. So martial arts, is that what you want to be called in this podcast?
I mean, yeah, it's you can either say martial arts, you can say Javon.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we're using the nom de manga or how I usually address you, but so martial arts, for anyone who may be unfamiliar with Lumebento, what would you say your company does? What are its goals as far as manga publishing goes?
So basically, when it comes to Lumebento, we are a manga and light novel brand. We are trying to recall imagination one story at a time. You know, I always tell people, this simple motto is literally just, let's recall imagination one story at a time. And something that I always try to let people know is, we really want to create these imaginary worlds where, the feelings are so beautifully depicted, things that you feel like you can live in, and I always say to some people and some of my friends, manga is like a snack. It's something that brings you a little enjoyment and satisfaction over time, chapter by chapter. So, when we pick people or we scout or anything like that, we really want to find people who are, as I like to always say, about this life, about creating manga. We go right to left, which always is something that we run into whenever people either want to join or we're scouting people. But we look at the traditional ways of creating manga, the tips, the techniques, fukudashi, page retention, Kisho Tenketsu. We look at all those things and we apply them to how we create manga here in the US. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really dig the philosophy that you're bringing out into the world. This is a company that I strongly stand behind. Now, if somebody wants to apply for you, if they want to make manga or light novels with you, what advice would you give to a potential applicant to further their chances?
What I would definitely say is if you want to work with Lumebento, first steps is kind of reaching out and researching who we are, seeing what we do, looking and reading the projects, because to me, that's always going to give your first indication of, how do they handle the work from creator to creator. And then on top of that, watch some of the videos, go watch the Lumebento Connects. Those are always going to give you the rundown of what stories we have coming out and things of that nature. Secondly, if you would like to join us, the big thing for me is just creating a one-shot or submitting a one-shot you've already created and letting me get a sense of who you are, your work. Let's sit down, let's chat, and just kind of go from there. And if you want to, it's the same exact thing for a light novel as it is for manga. Send me some of your work and just kind of reach out. If I don't get back to you, I know Monica, our social media manager, will. She deals with emails and stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's pretty much cut and dry.
Yeah, I think as a fan of manga and OEL manga specifically, what I like about Lumebento is you're very open with your different genres. I think in the West, there's more of a focus of being more shonen brain, for lack of a better word. Even though you do feature shonen works, I think that Lumebento has a much wider range of manga that you're publishing. So I feel like for you specifically, it's, this goes for any publisher, is like trying to think of how will my work fit in with this publisher, and to think of it that way. I think with Lumebento, you're looking more for more individual and unique personalities and treating it more like that. That's just from my point of view, of course. Okay. I don't want to speak too confidently on that. Yeah. Now, okay. Now this might be a spicy question, but I'm speaking from a place of self-deprecation. How does somebody get fired from Lumebento?
Man. So, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
So if you are, let's say you join Lumebento
Mm-hmm.
and we agree like, hey, you're going to be working on this, you're going to be doing this, and then you just don't do anything for up to 6 months. in 2 months, we're probably going to have a talk. In 4 months, we're probably going to have another talk. And then in 3 months, I'm like, hey, do you still want to do this with us? Do you not? And if they decide not to do it with us, then it's like, okay, well, then we're just going to have to cut you at this point because we're trying to move forward. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's good summary of what happened to me back in the day. But yeah, it's nothing personal. I'm just profoundly lazy. Yeah, I was looking like, man, these YouTube numbers, YouTube's making me a little bit more money than this light novel. It's like, I'm glad I could rip that Band-Aid off right away. I don't want that to be a sore spot or anyone to feel like we got to dance around things. So as for, I was wondering, like, what can, before we get started with the reader submissions, what can people look forward to from everyone here within the next month? What do you all plan on posting?
So I'll say this, and then if you two want to chime in at any point as well, Light On is dropping next month. That is the horror cult manga that's going to be leading that category of demographic. It's going to be our main demographic of horror cult stuff. And Light On is going to be coming out next month in October. We're going to start promoting that a little bit. And outside of that, chapter 13 of Penguin Boy is going to be dropping as well.
Nice.
And yeah, that's kind of it there. The other two, you guys can, like I said, chime in, talk about,
Yeah, I haven't heard from everyone else, so definitely let me know what are you planning on posting next. Doesn't have to be next month. Sorry if that was too limiting.
No, you're good.
Okay. So at the moment, I plan on posting speed draws on my Instagram, on my Twitter, on TikTok, basically on social media in general, so people can see the process of me creating my brainchild, our Excalibur. If I'm lucky, Chapter 1 may release. If it's in the cards for me in martial arts, we could release either by December or by January of the following year.
Okay.
Right now I'm like half the first chapter, and I'm trying to get the first 3 chapters inked and finished, and then we can start dropping regularly.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Is there anything more that you want to share about your manga? I know it's still a work in progress. You don't want to spoil anything, but anything that you want to get out there about it. Yeah.
Our Excalibur is about a boy named Rikudo who lives in a world of knights. And when I say knights, it's going to have some elements of the traditional knights from medieval culture, but I'm kind of doing a Final Fantasy thing where I kind of put these knights in a somewhat more modern, like Final Fantasy type setting, where like instead of soldiers, you have knights. It's got, and if I'm just going to get this out of the way right now, it's as many inspirations as I have. Our Excalibur is, its pure root of inspiration is Naruto.
Nice.
At least in terms of, yes, I'm a huge, unashamed Kishimoto shill.
Hell yes. Love to hear it.
And I know, like, even though this isn't something that I like to promote, I do want to say, like, people are going to ask me things like, oh, well, what makes our Excalibur not another shonen? It's going to be a lot of romance.
Okay, that's very cool.
Not the comedic type romance. I mean the serious Titanic style romance.
Yes.
Where like it's actually a plot point. It's going to be, it's primarily about action, but the romance plots are going to be heavily intertwined to bolster the action scene.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like if the romance was treated with a little more levity in Naruto, that would have upgraded the reading experience for me personally. It's really cool hearing like, hey, I'm a Kishimoto fan and I'm going to bring this specific element. That makes me really excited to read your manga.
Yeah, and like, here's the thing. I'm not going, because a lot of people tend to glamorize the romantic aspects of this type of theme. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm not just going to be showing the kissy, huggy type. Like, the characters are going to develop. You're going to see characters who are in relationships like argue, go through conflicts, the more negative side. So when they come out the other side, then when you get those double page, I almost said RAG. When you get those double page spreads of them, like, that passionate kiss, like, it means something.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you're very cognizant of different storytelling beats and how they play out and how to give the readers something satisfying to chew on. This is really cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Last thing before I pass the mic to number 1, there's also going to be a lot politics, so I'm kind of playing
Ooh.
around with that. Yes, not in
Interesting.
politics.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm the kind of guy who watches World War II documentaries while I'm drawing. I'm that guy.
All right. Definitely gonna make something really unique here. All right, and so number one manga. If you're all done, yeah, let's pass it off to him.
Yeah. So, what was the question I'm answering? I'm like about in a month in advance.
Yeah, what do you plan on posting next manga wise?
Next manga wise, right now, outside of the current meeting that we just had, which I think is still under NDA, so I'm not.
All right.
Important. But as far as I know, I'm currently just working on Nameless, which is my current ongoing series that I will publishing under Lumebento, of course. I said at the beginning, but yeah, I'm just going to be working on that. Most likely, I'll be live streaming every couple of like every week around like weekend time or around like early week time. Just live streaming and just talking about certain points in terms of storytelling, giving like different tidbits and advice or like different thought process or things. I don't have the current setup to do like to show my drawing situation, so that's just something I'm going to have to work around as I start to understand my technology. Because in case you didn't know, I'm very new to digital art, so anything in terms of like showing screen caps or showing recording time, that kind of stuff, that's something I'm gonna have to learn over time. But outside of that, I'll just be posting a lot of names. I'll be posting a lot of sketches, a lot of illustrations and such pertaining to my series, and of course, the advice and such, the writing side of things.
It's awesome. Yeah, and is there anything about your manga that you want people to know while you're on this podcast?
Of course. So yeah, Nameless is a very simple story. It's about a young swordsman who's out for revenge because somebody killed his family. So he's like, yeah, I'm coming for the people who killed my peoples. And honestly, the type of story it is, it's very simple, and I always abide by the same mantra that I constantly tell myself is I just want to draw stuff, or cussing's allowed on this, right? Like,
Yeah. You can swear as much as you want.
I just want to draw.
There we go.
So my whole thought process story is that I want to make an action series. I want to make a story that is both action oriented, but it also has that bit of personal grit to it, that feeling where it's like, I know who you are, we have a personal history together, and that level of grit is going to make the fight that much more impactful, that much more interesting. So just something that's fun to sink your teeth into, something that that just makes you want to turn the page, that kind of stuff.
Any other thoughts that you want to share about your manga? Is that about someone else?
As Storm did bring up, he is a Naruto fan. I'm pretty sure in terms of Marshall, you've talked to him. He's a big old One Piece fan, and it's funny enough, bro. I am the ultimate Bleach fan, bro. I'm not afraid to say that in public or on camera or admit that during my iterations. I 1,000% own that, because the Bleach is one of the only manga that really impacted me in a young age and at a older part of my life, and that very much impacted not only just that, but my art style and my interest in terms of both art and writing, especially the writing aspect of things. So you'll be seeing a lot of that in terms of Nameless, in terms of like the story itself, the characters, the fights, power systems, just stuff like that.
Yeah, like Bleach is a manga that very much follows the rule of cool, so it'll be interesting to see how that design philosophy and storytelling philosophy, how that impacts you and your storytelling. I'm really looking forward to it. And martial arts, I wanted to ask one more Lumebento thing Lumebento.
No, it's really funny you say that, because like so many people, like we just announced that Karuto joined the team not so long ago, and he calls it Lumebento as well. There's a lot of people who call it either Lumebento or Lumebento, and I'm like, I'm like either way, man.
Okay. I'm glad to have your blessing, because whenever I write a script that references Lumebento, I have to write out LOOM bento, so that when I read it, I don't mispronounce it. Because I just want to call it Lumebento. I think because bento's a Japanese word. So anyway, so I wanted to ask you, since they're not here, Yuki has a new manga, and it looks stunning. I'm really excited to see that they're back to making manga. Is there anything that you might want to say on their behalf or about their new manga?
Yeah, I think when that happened, we launched that, man, it was amazing. Saikyo. I always say that because you're not supposed to pronounce it. Saikyo is good manga. So Psycho released the same time as the Lumento Connect for last month. And if you know anything about like yokai or groups of people who take out yokai, that's exactly what this story is. So when it comes to Psycho, it's going to be Itsuki and Chisato. They are the characters that you're introduced to in chapter 1. And you get a lot of high action swordplay that is happening as they're fighting this yokai in this school. And it just, the beginning right off the back draws you in. You know, Yuki has such an amazing art style, and he does
Yes.
everything by finger.
Wait, really? Are you freaking kidding me? What the fuck? Dude, I had no idea.
Yeah.
What? Sorry, this is my first time finding this out. Like it's like in my mind, it's like, wow, Yuki is like one of the best artists in the OEL space. Like there's just such a unique style and skill and just sleekness to dude. Like no one is like picking away with the finger on. No way. It's at least on a tablet, right? Like do they do it on a phone?
No.
Is it on a
With his
phone
finger. Yeah, it's on
or
a
a
phone.
tab?
It's on a phone.
A phone?
No, yes.
No
100%.
way. Are you fucking
I've
kidding me?
I've seen him draw before. And a lot of what he does, you know, any of the promo art, anything like that, he does on his phone with his finger. He always has since the beginning, since he's joined Lumento. Since it was Wolf, him, you, myself, he's always done that. Like
No way.
That's how insane it is. So this kid's amazing, man. And he decided to do this story with yokai this time, and instead of demons, like in his last story, Devil Strike. And if you guys want to go see a wild ride. Try saying that 20 times fast. With Itsuki and Chisato, you're not going to be disappointed, because just the art alone on top of the narrative is like fantastic.
I still need to like psychically recover from learning that it's all drawn with a finger. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it is. It's a really fun manga. Definitely think that the art has upgraded since his last manga, and I'm really looking forward to where it goes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, if there's any other manga related things about Lumento that anyone wants to throw out there before we get started, now's the time.
Have you checked out Akuronin or Recusant?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
important. Yeah, that's important. Recusant Storm. We go into Recusant. I think that's a good start right there, bro.
Oh, well, okay. Before I begin, Taker, have you read it? If not, it's cool. It's perfect.
I haven't read it. I'm very sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That is my...
Put him on the stake. He hasn't read it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So back in 2012, 2013-ish, I watched Final Fantasy VII Advent Children for the first time. And I'm like, Cloud Strife, say less. I was already a Final Fantasy VII kid. I saw that movie. I'm like, got it. Say less. So I drew, instead of drawing a blonde, blue-eyed guy, I drew a dark-skinned, black-haired, brown-eyed guy. I gave that guy a sword and a Navy outfit. And I said, you know what? Instead of a soldier, he's going to be a mercenary.
Nice.
And he's going to go after this. He's going to team up with this alcoholic, big-breasted mercenary. And yeah, they're going to go after, this mysterious girl who has these dark powers that kill people when they get too close to her. And the idea is, this is my chance to make my version of the edgy, no-nonsense protagonist. This is my version of Rule of Hunger.
Nice. I love it. I do love when creators can follow their heart like that and just go with, what was that?
No, you're good. Back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That is like what the fun of manga is for me, is just seeing creators just do what they think is like the coolest shit imaginable. And yeah, definitely sounds like you're delivering on that.
That's really what gets people, because the one thing I learned about one shot, the one thing I've learned in the past year, it is much harder to draw something to palette what you like in a way that will actually appeal to readers. Like I learned so much. It took me 6 months to draw that one shot.
Wow.
6 months longer.
Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, it should have taken 3. It should have taken 3, but it took 6. But it taught me that, obviously I learned some art stuff, but it taught me how to, and the biggest thing that it taught me is how to write characters in a way that you understand who they are immediately without having to disclose walls and walls of text worth of backstory.
Yeah, that's definitely valuable skill. Yeah. I guess I did want to ask everyone, I keep delaying us reading through the submissions, and I'm very sorry to the people listening, they're like, come on, get to my thing. Like, but I do want to ask everyone, like, what's some general manga advice that you would give to anyone listening to this podcast?
Oh, that's a bit easy, bro. That's a little,
Yeah.
that's a little too easy. So we watch some videos that pertains to manga because these people kind of give us advice or give anybody advice who watch those videos. And the number one thing that they tell you to do is draw. That's
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
That and make sure that it's readable.
Mm.
Like we've all been doing research, and the number one thing, and I lie, we're actually like getting this information from somebody who's already done the research, because Torishima, if you know who that Kazuhiro Torishima. But yeah, the biggest problem that a lot of indie creators, including us at one point, suffered from is it's just not readable.
Yeah.
We draw what we want to draw the way we want to see it. But you have to consider if a casual reader picks up your manga, are they going to have a easy time getting into it, or are they going to, spend 2 minutes too long looking at a page, and then they get frustrated, they get bored, and they put it down.
Yeah, I think that learning how to structure a manga, it is an exercise in empathy in the way where it's like, well, can anybody pick this up and just understand what I'm putting down? Even and when you unlock that, then it makes it easier to get more selfish with your manga and to just do what you think is cool, because it's like, well, the baseline of can somebody read this? I've established that, and I'm confident that my readers will understand what I'm doing. And martial arts, is there any advice that you would give to people who are making manga?
I keep it short.
Yeah.
When you are making your manga, keep your audience in mind. And when you are actually going to start drawing, do not be afraid to go to these books, these volumes, these tankobon, whether it is an established mainstream artist or a niche established artist. Trace their work, copy them for a bit, and then learn the tips and techniques that you get from that book, and just to begin applying those to your own, because through those exercises, learn shape language and volume. And through those exercises, you're going to start to pick up how you want to present your art. I want you to remember, anatomy isn't everything, but it can help you solidify how your art looks when you start putting things together. That way your characters and or anthropomorphic creatures look atomically correct, even if they're drawn funky. So remember, anatomy isn't everything, but learning it can help you learn where to place things.
Yeah, I big agree there. I think that we have a similar philosophy when it comes to manga of like, hey, I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna make this real. I think that both of us, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I think the both of us kind of skipped over our anatomy lessons before we got into making manga. yeah. So I feel like, like when I look at your art, I feel very forgiving of a lot of the shortcomings the shortcuts that you take, because it's like, well, I've taken the same shortcuts and I know your philosophy of just making the manga. Whereas like, I think, there are some readers that might be a little more critical or harsh. And that's another interesting, kind of debate with manga is like, well, how polished does something need to be? And it is cool seeing your stuff, how it's rough and it's got that loose energy to it. And I really like it in that it does remind me of One Punch Man. It's not a backhanded compliment. I swear. Like I fucking love One Punch Man. Like and it's really cool seeing a manga with that energy and that passion. I love it. I'll stop the speech there. I'm a big Penguin Boy fan.
It's funny because like chapter 1 is like a way rougher than anything else, and then as you get later on, the art improves. But I got a lot of people who say Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man, and Hunter x Hunter. Get all those different vibes from it throughout different chapters. Oh, okay. Never referenced any of those manga, but that's just kind of what people see. So
interesting.
Like, okay, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, I guess we can get into the submissions now if everyone's all feeling good.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's start with the completed works. This month we got a completed work from Jester Arts. So their name is Jester, he, him, and which fictional character do you most want to marry? Something that I asked to all the submissions. Let you know a little bit more about their taste and their personality, where they're coming from. And Jester says, Husbando number 2, Gian from Wuthering Wave. He submitted an animatic, and he says, This is a concept or pitch made in 2021. A lot of the story and roles have changed since then, but this the only final version of Her Majesty. Either way, feedback, suggestions, and ideas welcome. Let me copy that link for everyone, just in case you haven't seen it. I did get a chance to watch this. It was interesting. I think that there was a good use of when of I don't know if the animation economy is the right word, but it's like, okay, when the magical girls are transforming, that's when I'm going to put in all of my effort and time. And, you know, when the characters are just walking around, we could just kind of like move the JPEG to imply walking. It's an interesting concept. There were I get the sense, Jester, just from their previous submissions and other things, that they are someone who is very who knows a lot about history, that definitely knows a lot more than me. And there was a point where I was watching this when, like, in the opening scene when the characters are walking, I had the sense of like, is this supposed to be like a visual novel? Because I had that sense of like, you know, you could put the text box for the characters in this and nothing where like they had that like visual novel music, and just like the way it was written and structured, it felt very much like a visual novel. So I wonder if restructuring this to be more visual novel-like would benefit it. Something that came to mind, I think everyone here knows this person. Pika Pika 2000 does these Miku dance animations where it's like just different characters hanging out, and she structures it kind of like a video game cutscene. And I had that sense of like, I wonder if Jester, if this animation was kind of retooled to be more like a cutscene or a visual novel, if that would benefit it. And then like the text bubble goes away when the characters transform and they're fighting, but then when they're just, you know, sitting around talking about the debate club, you can do the text bubbles and go easier on the animation there. But anyone else who watched this, I definitely want to hear your thoughts.
So I watched it. I'll go first. I'll give you guys time to kind of watch it.
Yeah.
Kind of catch up on it. So I watched it. Here's my favorite things I love when people have black and white and accented colors.
Yeah.
So I love when the eyes for this are accented, and that kind of lets you know right off the bat, hey, this person is like, you're not seeing this, even if they have like a similar design, you're seeing a different character because the eye color is different.
Mm-hmm.
As you're watching the beginning of it, I think you can have, like you were saying earlier, you can have like when the black lights are kind of falling down and this just has the black background with the white dots falling. You can have text up there so people can read and kind of engage with that. And you can make it fade in, fade out. I do heavily agree with the visual novel aspect of it. That way you don't have to make the characters kind of move in this monotonous way each time. Mm-hmm. It's really cool still. Like the whole thing this whole video is still really cool. But to improve it, I think you could have the characters slide in or fade in. And maybe there's 4 characters talking, so you make 2 slide in on the left or 2 slide in on the right, and then you have that speech bubble at the bottom. So the only thing you're changing is their in and out animation, and then the main thing you're changing is who's talking down at the bottom. I think that would be the most kind of monotonous thing you'd have to do. Yeah,
I think viewers are also more forgiving if they feel like, oh, I'm watching something that's supposed to be like a visual novel or a visual novel, like a imitation visual novel. Then, like, you know, that if that's the presented medium, then people will kind of excuse the more static animation when it has to be. I think there kind of needs to be. I think for this, you should like think of what direction you want to go with this. Because I think for animatic, you could still make an animatic that's really engaging and really and does a lot, but I don't think you're doing enough, if that makes sense. But yeah, you're right about the spot coloring. Definitely, that does save on animation time, and it is a good visual cue for the viewers.
Yeah, since it's black and white, it allows you to actually see who. Okay, I know who this is. It's the green hair.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. And I do think the transformation was the one thing that he was looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
Like, look at that, like, this is actually
that was some really good animation for that one.
In terms of the whole thing, I think that I see the vision. I see what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's not like I can't see the intention. I also do somewhat subscribe and somewhat agree with what you guys are saying in terms of it being more of a visual novel type of situation. You guys remember? Do you guys know the game Nikke? Do you guys know what that is?
No, I don't. What is that?
So Nikke is similar, where it's like its story is more visual novel-esque, where the gameplay is actual gameplay. It's like a what was it? Those static shooter.
Images that kind of you stack, kind of like a puppet pen tool, like
Oh,
motion type stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, like you tap the
Nikke Goddess
screen.
Victory is what it's called.
Yeah, you tap the screen and the characters shoot, and you let go and they hide behind cover. But well, aside from that, right? Like take that gameplay aspect out of the game. The visual novel aspect is that they're telling the story, and they have it to where every time a character is talking, they enter the foreground, and the characters that aren't talking are like more grayed out, and they enter the background.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That makes, like, in terms of the visual novel format, something like that would definitely make up for if you were to not do too much animation. But doing the animatics, I think, like for those are very much cutscenes. Those are very much things that need to be presented to kind of utilize those animatic skills as well as capitalize on your story through the visual novel aspect. That's just how I'm personally thinking about that. That's if this person wants to do that.
Yeah.
However, I really do like the magical girl stuff. If you guys don't know, well, Storm and Marshall 1000% no. But on my end, I'm a very big Sailor Moon fan. So when I
Awesome.
see magical girl stuff, I get really excited because I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
yeah.
they're doing magical girls. When I see the parted bangs that are like very Usagi-esque, I'm like, ooh, this
Yeah.
person's inspired by something Sailor Moon or Madoka Magica. I'm excited, you know.
Yeah.
So I love seeing the magical girl concept existing in the big 2025 because a lot of people tend to steer away from that because it's either dated to them or it's not the current hot hip thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That brings a smile to my face. I'm super glad that this person implemented that, and I think that the way to kind of push that in terms of the narrative is like, or not in terms of the narrative, the way to push that, just keep dig into that inspiration that you're taking from your work. Who, like, again, who was the person who posted this? Sorry,
Jester.
Take deep into that inspiration and go all out. Don't hold anything back. Go all out with your thing. This made me smile when I watched this video. So there's that.
Yeah, definitely agreed on the retro influences. These character designs are so fun. It's like they look like they were plucked from the 90s and just transported to modern day, that is very impressive when somebody can very accurately like give you a character and mood and vibe from another decade and feeling like it just exists from there. That's very cool. And anyone else have their feedback for this work?
I don't want to repeat anything that the other two said, so I'm just going to say this. I have actually tried my hand at animation. It is very, very, very tedious work. So the fact that they were able to get this much together is very impressive. Like,
oh yeah.
As the other, okay, no, fine. I'm going to borrow something that Marshall and Number One. So basically, I also do very much see the vision. And the acting, I'm not going to lie, the voice acting, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Like, I can follow the story. I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch the whole thing. I kind of like skipped around because I'm trying to pay attention to the podcast. But I like the art style. Yes, it is retro. But me personally, I'm the throwback king. So that already gets points with me. I'm the throwback king.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm digging the characters. I like the transformation scene. I like how they even give the guy the transformation because I'm like, yes, king.
That was cool.
Oh yeah.
I was like, it made me think of the recent Superman show. It made me think about how Goku is literally he's the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Really hope this person continues with this because I'm like, here's the thing. I want to touch on something that you mentioned a second ago, Taper Clip.
Yeah.
Like, if a lot of people put way too much emphasis on on a fully polished product. That's not necessary. If you can, there's more than one way to shear a sheep. Okay. If you can get people to follow and engage, with your product, then you've done your job. Like, the biggest selling point of this animation here is it's very retro, it's very 90s, and to people who like that stuff, like, here's the thing. As much as played out as we want to say that stuff is, it's still anime. Like, if you're into that, like, it's gonna pull you in. I guarantee you will pull each and every one of us in.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, people are very forgiving of like technical, I don't want to call them imperfections, but like technical quirks, if they like the characters, if they can follow the story, and most importantly, if they can follow the story and engage with the character.
I'll say this: imperfections is what made some series and some things like stick. It's either the imperfections or glitches or anything. So even if someone does say something is an imperfection, that might make your work all the better in some cases.
Yeah.
So it just really depends. So yeah,
Big agree.
Good example, Demon Slayer. There's a lot of, in terms of manga itself, there's a lot of imperfections in terms of the art, but that art brings a certain level of warmth to some people who read it, especially the more comical scenes or the more sweet, like emotional scenes. Like, it brings a level of, it's so simplistic, it has those flaws in the art, but it makes it feel like you're reading like off of a Japanese scroll, like you're reading off of like some type of playbook from like the old Taisho period. But you're also get this heartwarming feeling like, oh, this is a home cooked manga. I really like this, even though even though the characters look like stick bugs sometimes, even though the characters look like little noodles sometimes. I still like that's the beauty of this. And I think when it comes to the indie space in general, as an indie creator, as an indie creator and two indie creators, embrace those levels of imperfection, embrace those levels of things, because once you grow and once you evolve, those imperfections become the thing that is like the staple for your work. It will become like the tell that this belongs to you. This every artist, every single artist, whether it's musical, whether it's visual art, whether it's performance art, any of those kinds of things, all those imperfections eventually become your tell. It eventually becomes your signature within your craft, and that's something that you should cherish and just keep working towards, because it'll evolve.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. I think touched a little bit on the voice acting. I think the voice acting in this, it sounds great. I think that there is a really great cast behind this. The audio mixing, however, needs a little bit of work, and I can tell when there's very different mic qualities. That's like a little adjustment that you can make that will elevate the work, that where it's like, something like Demon Slayer, it's like, it's got its charm, and it, when it's a little rough. I think for audio mixing, I don't think there's going to be that same affection for the roughness. Now, for audio mixing, I like to use a website called Auphonic that levels everyone's audio and gets it more consistent. It's an automatic process. Definitely check that out. Look at different, and I know there's people more experienced with audio processing that will say like, oh, well, you can do that in Audacity, everything that Auphonic does. That's true. Definitely. I think like if you run it through Auphonic, if Audacity's too intimidating, I think a good way to ease into better audio editing is use a website like Auphonic and then compare, like, okay, this is the rough original one and this is what Auphonic spat out, and then you can read up on like how to accomplish that yourself. I think right now the current pricing is like you get 2 hours free on Auphonic when you make an account. So, and then from there you got to pay up. So for like a short animation, you should be good. And as far as other little adjustments, definitely now again, because this was made in 2021, so I assume that your art has improved since then, and it's just looking better. Definitely, I feel like it's not so much like bad facial anatomy. It's like it feels like the skulls aren't like round enough, if that makes sense, like while you're drawing. And I think if you specifically hone in on skull structure and skull anatomy and drawing the face from different angles, I think that will also tremendously help your art. But what's nice is like it does have that 90s shoujo magical girl feeling. But if that's like one aspect of anatomy that I would say that you specifically should work on. But otherwise, I do really like this. I think that this was a great job. Hopefully, I'm not ending on too much of a downer note with these notes.
Yeah, on a couple of shots, I think the eyes, nose, and mouth are a little bit too high up on the face. Even for this kind of style, so I would suggest like maybe lowering it just a little, like kind of just centering everything. Like no matter what art style you're trying to go for, no matter what facial. This just, mind you, this is just how my brain works.
Yeah.
This is by no means a rule. But for me personally, no matter what kind of anatomy you're going for, like realistic or stylized, like try to center, the facial features.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just that way everything looks a little bit more balanced. But that's just
Yeah. No, that's good advice. I agree. Yeah. Definitely. I hope Jester comes back and shows off more of their stuff. All of their previous submissions, we've had a lot of fun with, definitely. So onto the pitches. So let me send this first one is a work in progress, because we like to divide the show between unmade work and completed work. So the first submission for unmade work, it's half of a one shot basically, and they send it to the unmade form. So I guess that's how we're gonna treat it. So this comes from Canadian Turtle. Did not give any pronouns or fictional character you most want to marry. Just Canadian Turtle. That's all. That's all the personal info we're getting. I respect it. And so next question: what is your elevator pitch given in the form of series meets series? Example: Suicide Squad meets Cardfight Vanguard. And Canadian Turtle says Naruto meets Attack on Titan. And next question: summarize your potential series in one paragraph. This is where to include series medium if it's not a manga, intended length, and all of your big plans. If you have a title for your work, this is where to include it. If you go over a paragraph, we will make fun of you. And so Canadian Turtle says, this series is meant to be no more than 15 volumes. Okay. I know the beginning and ending. Now comes the fun part, actually making it. The first chapter is supposed to be around 50 plus pages long, but I wanted to release the first 24 just to show everyone that the work is being done. The best way I could describe my series is Naruto meets seinen manga. All right, very cool. I did have a chance to read this. Now, did anyone else have a chance to flip through this?
Actually flipping through it right now.
Okay.
Just because I'm kind of reading it, and I gotta say, man, just looking off of the artistic value in the beginning of it, I really enjoy that it has this storybook kind of pop out feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really think that's very unique to, the space. And it's something that just looks very cool, looking at it. And then, when you eventually do get to the first few pages, you see the work of the brushwork and stuff like that. I think there's a few things with blending, it looks like, where there's like a snake's head on a mountain. I think could be brushed up a bit.
Okay.
But even just kind of looking through everything else, I mean, it looks super unique. And just reading some of the work that they have within the fukudashi or speech bubbles, you can see that they put care and dedication into what these characters are saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll start with my critique. So we're not ending on a sour note. I'm so sorry to Jester again. But I think my two biggest critiques for this are the speech bubble and the character design for the girl at the end. And for the speech bubbles, it looks like Comic Sans. I don't know if it's Comic Sans. It doesn't look. Yeah. The font. I'm not digging it. I think a very easy way to elevate this work and have it just look better and cleaner overall, you got to work on the font. That's the thing. It's like, this isn't bad. There's a lot of good things I'm going to say about this, but the clunky speech bubbles, it just downgrades the work immediately. And what's more is this is an easy fix, which is fortunate. It's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass to go back and change this to a better font. The way how it's it's not like the text isn't centered, it's all pushed to the left. I'm not really digging that. Maybe this is because I've done things where I will deliberately do something bad, thinking okay, but when I'm done, I will go back and fix this. Deliberately doing an ugly font so that okay, so that way it makes me read over it closer, and then I know the final then I know this page is finalized if I'm still writing in an ugly font, and I know it's like an easy visual indicator. So hopefully that's what you're thinking there. Now, yeah, so definitely get someone else. If this font looks right to you, get someone else to look over it. Because lettering is hard. Lettering is a unique skill on its own, and maybe that's just not how your brain is tuned. Maybe you look at this what do you mean this is fine? I am begging you, please do not let this tiny little mistake degrade your work like this. As for the character designs, now most of what you've sent is this old guy giving the rules of the world and giving a bit of lore. And then at the end, we see these two female characters teased. And okay, when someone is good at drawing, buff old dudes, there might be a bit of a learning curve for drawing girls. there is that angle of like, you know, you can draw female characters that are really buff and cool, and there is like, you know, this might be more of, you know, my internalized sexism thinking like, well, you know, you got to draw the girl cute. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you do want, you know, the chicks to be equally strong. But I'm not really getting that vibe because, you know, I'm like, you know, you're presenting these characters, you know, with all this pink and flowers. So I'm assuming that, you know, you want these characters to be cute. You want them to have that appeal rather than being the strong girl who can kick your ass. And maybe, you know, and again, maybe there is a bit of both with some characters. I think there's like a lot of wrinkles going on with the characters, and a lot of and it just kind of like makes the characters like look a little ugly in a way that I don't think you're intending to do, where you want to, I think the intent is you want to give them a little bit more realism and fit in with your personal art style. But to me, it's just like, oh man, she looks beat. This looks bad. I think if you make the eyes a little bit bigger, if you kind of smooth out the face, I think like you know, the way that she's smiling, I'm looking at the second to last page, like she's smiling and I see the crease in the cheek, and it's like, and that's like a thing where it's like, well, when you're drawing a face more realistically, that makes sense. I think for anime style, when you add those details, it can make a character look old in a way that you're not really intending, because everything else about her character design reads as youthful. And again, maybe I'm off the mark. Maybe she is supposed to be a cool old lady character. I think, yeah, like just try to soften her features. I think also the way the hair is rendered, it looks very stringy. And hair is another personal touch that it varies a lot, you know, between series, between creators. I don't get the sense that like this is like beautiful like character, like, you know, with flowing hair. They're like, I've heard with different tutorials, like, don't draw grass when it comes to drawing hair, and that, like, you know, you just kind of like draw the same thing. I think there needs to be a little more variety with the hair, so it looks a little has a little more volume. Also, her hands a little too rough. I think, you know, the way the bones are, that's also like another unnecessary detail. Like there are ways to draw a hand so it looks like a female hand without like making it, you know, and still keep that realism while also like, you know, making it look soft and pleasant. I would recommend, like, because you do want this to be a seinen, I would recommend looking at how other seinen characters draw their female characters. Specifically what came to mind was something like Tokyo Ghoul or Ajin, how those have like very rough and scratchy art styles, but they are still able to make the girls look cute. And again, I'm putting up the giant asterisk disclaimer. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you have this attitude of fuck you, the girls are going to be the ugliest motherfuckers you've ever seen. Maybe that's what you want, in which case, ignore me. But those are my two really big critiques. I did really enjoy this. I think that there's a good sense of pacing and building with this, and you're able to get a good momentum with this, and there's a lot of good, stunning scenery, and you're able to dispel information at a satisfying pace where it does take the reader along, and when it switches back into color, that was a very satisfying moment. You're very good with color, with your character designs and your different staging of the world and how things flow. So I'm really looking forward to this being completed. I think that you're off to a really great start. Now I want to pass the mic off to someone else. I've yapped for a long time about this, but what does everyone else think?
You're good. I'm going to ask the question to the group, so this will determine my interpreter. Is this a complete, like, this is not a complete chapter, right? This is just like an intro. He says the first chapter is going to be 50 plus pages, and this is what he has done so far. Okay. All right. So from that perspective, I have some story critique and I also have some art critique.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I
'cause
will
I just finished it myself.
I'll save my thoughts if everybody else is going to take their turn, because I know that everybody else is probably like way
go ahead.
easier.
Yeah, go
ahead.
Go ahead.
You're talking, bro.
Okay,
Go ahead,
so-
go ahead.
So in terms of the art aspect, and I have to make this 100% clear, there is a very big misconception within the indie manga creation space, as well as the creation space in terms of visual arts, about seinen manga and shonen manga. And
Mhm.
I really want to since everybody who's watching this podcast or is going to watch this later is going to watch this video, I need them to understand one very, very important thing. There is no set art style to shonen and seinen. There is none. That is a very big misconception and a very big thing that a lot of people think, that shonen looks a certain way, seinen looks another way. That's a very huge misconception, and that's something that does limit people's art. I do want to say something in terms of, I'm glad you brought up Tokyo Ghoul in terms of seinen. Did you know Tokyo Ghoul is a shonen? Did you know that?
Whoops. Oh man, I didn't actually. In my mind, I had mentally classified it as a seinen.
You're good. And I also noticed that this guy said Naruto crossed with Attack on Titan in terms of seinen vibes. Attack on Titan is also a shonen. Funny enough. So these are things that people don't know because they don't understand the difference between seinen and shonen in terms of how these things really play into how manga is created. It is not about necessarily art style, rather it's about the themes and topics put into a story in which you basically bring to your audience. So if, let's say, you have a topic of war, but you're making a shonen story, you're not going to dive into the horrors of war to the utmost extent that, shonen young boys who are around the ages of 12 to 16, probably a little bit older, you're not going to dive into to that extent to essentially traumatize your audience. That's not your intention. That's not your point. That's not what you're trying to do, right? However, when you go into a seinen audience, which is young men, which goes around the ages of 18, or you could say 20 to 25, right? That type of stuff goes into things where it's like you're going to topics like the horrors of war, like war crimes, poverty, famine. You're going into internalized racism and stuff. Like, you're going into the deeper aspects of those things that are not talked about to children, because you're marketing this to people who understand these concepts and people who can basically wrap their adult minds around these topics without this essentially being, scarred.
Yeah.
So in terms of the art style, the reason I'm saying this is because I see that he's going for a very realistic art style, but he's trying to make it very, very stylized. A good series that I can give it as an example would be something like Hell's Paradise, right? Where there is very realistic aspects to things. There are very colorful things to it, and yet it's still stylistic in its own way. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm noticing a lot of different patterns in terms of the art where the character designs are very nice. Yes, I'm not going to argue against that. However, the background seems to be more of the focus. And that's honestly a bit of my critique, and this is a personal thing on my end. This is keep in mind, what I'm about to say is very personal on my end. It is mostly about the backgrounds. When you see that kind of, when I'm reading this manga, in my personal opinion, the characters should be the center focus. Because if I'm focusing on the characters, I'm trying to relate and understand the characters. I noticed that this introduction is more so like they're trying to set the world. I understand that. I'm not taking anything away from that. However, if this is the first 15 pages, like this is more than 50 pages actually, this is about 18 pages complete. I'll put it like that. 18 pages complete, and I myself am not really, I'm not really placing myself in the story alongside a character. This old man's talking, but it's like I don't have that connection to the old man. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
That's really. And I understand this is a intro, this is a prologue. However, when you're making an intro and a prologue for future reference, not for this in particular, you don't have to restart anything. I want to see the full finished product when it's finished. I genuinely want to. But when you're first starting off, when you're trying to make an introduction, you want to introduce the concepts of your world over time, but you want to give us an introduction to your story, manga or comic. You want to give us an introduction to your story within the first 5 pages. The first 5 pages is what's going to make us understand what's going on. Not to say that if you don't do it in 5 pages, it won't hook anybody, but the first 5 pages are very crucial to basically having an audience member understand, what am I about, who am I following right now? Just genuine, these different thoughts on that. I noticed that you also brought up in terms of like the characters when it comes to the female character. I think that what I'm seeing here is that he's going for a very stylized art style, but he's also like, he or she. I'm sorry. Am I misgendering the individual? I don't want to.
Yeah, they didn't give any identity indicators. Just they just are a Canadian turtle. Okay.
I just want to make sure. But I noticed that it's a very stylized art style when it comes to Japanese, Shinto, and very Eastern mythologies. I'm seeing this through the third eyes. I'm seeing this through the constant use of the tomoe or magatama. I'm seeing it through the cloud-shaped blades or cloud-shaped flames or cloud, like the very swirly type of cloud pattern. I'm noticing a lot of the snake stuff. Like, basically, I'm seeing a lot of Eastern stylization, right? And I think that if there was any use of stylization on the character designs, the facial features, are very much the thing that need that stylization. Because as
Yeah.
you were saying about the girl with the snake, right? That you couldn't tell whether she was old or she was just, she just looked a little chopped. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like that's you didn't know in particular. And I think that within itself, it's that struggle with I want this to be stylized, but I also want this to be realistic.
Mhm.
I don't think doing that is a very positive thing for trying to portray something in particular.
Mm.
I would say, and this is my personal opinion, you can disregard it if you wish, it's perfectly fine. I'm wrong all the fucking time. It's nothing new. I'm wrong all the time. However, I think the best thing to do is to, in terms of the world, right? It's very realistic and it's both realistic and stylized. But in terms of the characters, I think the facial features need to be simplified to a certain degree in order to pass off the age and expression of said characters. Because I think the realism overcomplicates things and overloads people who are reading this, who will be like, how old is that person? What is this person's like? Like, can you? I can't get a gist of it from a glance. I have to see more sequential art with it. Like the final page with what Treacherous at the top of it.
Yeah.
That is like that's the simplified thing that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
That's the
that
simplified, like,
design
that-
looks a lot better, definitely, when compared to Snake Girl.
and
Yeah.
it's very, anatomically correct. But for the previous picture, it feels like you're trying to sell that this character is laughing or sell that this character is joyous in this moment. But because of the face lines, because of the wrinkles, because you're trying to be realistic, it's hard for me to understand that on a first glance. So only criticisms I really have is try keeping your page count in mind when you're first starting off with an introduction, and look and don't confuse seinen with realism. Don't confuse shonen with stylistic. You just want to go by that balance that you're looking for based on your inspiration. You want to go by the things that you hold value with. And maybe what you hold value with is literally this right here. And it can be, a number one, you're talking out your ass, shut up, bro. Like it could very well be that. And that's perfectly fine. But I think that when you're establishing that form of an art style, that requires a bit more work in that area. That's really all I'm really harping on at this point.
Yeah, I think your advice of give the readers the protagonist within the first 5 pages, that's a really good rule. I don't want to talk too much. I want to pass the mic.
I'm just trying to think of something that hasn't already been said already.
Yeah, you guys pretty much covered a whole lot of it. I'll just say this part. I really want to go back because I had a chance to read it when you were chatting Taperclip in the beginning, and it's a lot like you said. We'll talk about the Fukudashi or speech bubbles first. Everything is kind of centered to the left. I think choosing a proper font, because even in Penguin Boy, I went through and redid all the font because the original font that I had, even listening to the one that you did over chapter 1 a while back, I was like, yeah, I got to update this font. The font for this story would give it its own character, the font that it would have in there. I am a big component of, like what number 1 was saying, capture your audience within the first 5 to 10 pages. We're seeing here the first 26 pages, actually. The first 26 pages is just kind of exposition. It's like the biggest thing that I could say in the indie space is there's a lot of people who do that. They want to reel you into the story. And instead of giving you a character that can exist in this world and see what's happening and see what's going on, they give you this long exposition that we could have gotten in a better storytelling way. But instead, it's now being told to us in force fed. It's like, I won't remember this. I don't even care about this at this point. But the visuals to me are stunning, and I think that's what really draws me in. The backgrounds, I think, are really good. And to number 1's credit to what he was saying, that's what you focus on. I don't see the characters. There's no white outline. There's no separation between the background and the characters at certain times. And I think that that's a very missed thing. Like if we look at the one where, what page is this? Page 10, where the character says, here we go. I'm like, there should be that slight separation, because you see he did it for the blade, or that's just the way the blade looked. He gave the blade a white outline, or it's just the shimmer of the blade. But there's not that same thing pretty much for the character. And I'm like, that probably should be there just so you have that bit of separation. So you're focusing on the character. Yes, these elements in the background are important, it seems, but you've already established the scene so many times. But I guess because the character is talking about the world, that's why we're seeing the background so much. But it's like, okay, take us back and you could be showing us kind of this recreation of thing. Now, number one, you had said, "Oh, you don't have to go back." No, I'm an advocate of saying, go back and fix this since you're so early in the chapter. You know me. I'm one of those people that say, if you're early in the chapter, go back and fix this. And all this could have been solved or could be solved if, like you had said, Taperclip, you give people to, or you start giving your story to the readers in the early process. You give your work to the readers, not to the readers, sorry, to a select group of people you trust to give you feedback on the work. So when you're drafting up your name or your rough draft, give it to readers and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Let them give you the feedback. That way you're not wasting time and you don't feel like, crap, I should go back and fix this. Because we all know there are artists who just go back and put in panels, put in pages in their work, and you're just like, that's the wrong idea. Now your story is going to be all wonky.
Yeah. Fortunately, this is what this podcast is for. We could go over people's work before they dedicate the next decade of their life to a manga. I think because he says how like, oh, I want this to be 15 volumes. That's pretty ambitious, but you're early on in this process, so there is time to readjust things. I think like it might hurt to scrap this, especially like after you've drawn so much, and so I won't. I feel hesitant to be like, hey, start over. But yeah, I think making it more character driven would benefit this. Even if like you start chapter, or you say like this is the prologue. And now, chapter 1, we're going to start with protagonist Kun's first day in school or whatever the hell is going to happen. But yeah, like, I need to know who the main character is. Like, you're very right.
You know what? I'll say,
okay.
Start over. Reading this whole thing. And I say that not because you didn't work hard, but if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be that person who is like, hey, I want this to be good, you will do the work that you need to do. You will put in the work. Yes, you put in a massive amount of work into this. You did this beautifully. It doesn't mean you need to get rid of this chapter. What it means is you can add an additional chapter in the beginning to introduce us to a character, to the world, and then you can have this as like the second, third, or fourth chapter in to where it's like, okay, now I'm going to kind of give you guys an explanation on this. But I would make a new beginning to introduce us to a character, a problem, and the world. Just a hint of it even, and then go from there. So I will say start over and do that and then push this further.
I like that. I would like this as like end of volume 1 chapter, and you're just teasing what this world is. And then finally at the end of volume 1, we get some questions answered and then, hype up what's going to come next. It's man, like this looks beautiful. I wouldn't want to throw this out. Like, but yeah, you're right.
I'm like, I don't want him to throw it out. I want him to add something to be the beginning and like us into the story. I think that would work.
Clip, can I be a little bit of just a little bit of an asshole?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I would start completely from scratch. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, because here's the thing. This is something that I've noticed over and over and over again. Like Karuto. I'm gonna build up to this a little bit because I want to move on to the next.
Okay, yeah.
Marshall and number one and fucking said everything. But, so there's this. I've noticed a pattern. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Taberclub, but I've noticed it in almost every single indie series I've read. They take way too long with the exposition, and it makes it boring to read. It makes it impossible to get into because there seems to be this idea that you have to make sure people don't. I don't want to know. I don't want to not know what's going on. Like you're sitting up here telling me the story, and I know the contact, brother, sister, friend, person, whoever. It's calm down. Take a step back. Who is the character? Like I call it the Star Wars A New Hope method. I want to know who's the good guy. Who's the bad guy? Who's the love interest? Who's the funny guy? I want to know who's who. I want to know who the protagonist is. I want to know what their goal is. I want to know who they are as a person. And it is perfectly achievable to do that, as number one said, within the first 5 pages. I would say I would try to do it in the first 3, if I'm being honest. Well, no, because fucking covers and shit. Yeah, the first 5 pages.
I mean, Storm, you're touching upon like some beautiful stuff right now, bro. That's bro.
Like, why? A lot of people it's because a lot of people are not confident enough and they're too afraid to show people their characters because they take more time. They think that, you know, if I dump on the reader as much as possible, then and they get all this context, it's like then they can go with the story. No, I don't give a fuck about none of that if I can't engage with the characters. Because I'm going to say something controversial, and I'm intentionally not going to say where I got this from. You got like martial arts. You could feel free to say this, but I'm not telling where I got this from. The background and the characters are secondary. The most important element of a manga is your characters, regardless of the drama. If you don't have good characters, you don't have a story, period. Readers not want to sit here through a fucking history lesson. Like, this is beautifully drawn. And here's the thing, we can say this. I can say this. I have revised my manga, Excalibur, 9 times. I'm on my 9th pass.
Reggie, tell them when you first started Excalibur. How long ago did you start Excalibur, bro?
I drew the first version. I drew the first 5 volumes in 2007.
What?
That was 18 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah. So I'm no stranger to restarting the series because without rambling too much, you want to establish who the characters are, get readers used to the characters. Then over time, you can introduce characters to the story. Because you have to think about what is going. Like you don't have to. It's a really delicate balance. It's a really delicate balance when you are making another thing. I'm going to touch on this in a second.
Yeah.
When you are making a manga, not an anime. A lot of people they spend pages and pages and pages. I'm like, bro, this is not a fucking animated series. This is a manga. Get to the point. Like I'm not. And there's a difference between getting to the point and rushing. I mean. Establish the character, set the tone for the series, give us just enough exposition so we have a little bit of context going to the story. But your characters are what's going to make your readers follow the story. And now I'll touch on my other point. This is not an anime, you know? It's one thing to draw action sequences and dynamic sequences and drama sequences where you'll take maybe a page or two to like show a character mulling over something, or you want to show like a storm happening, or like just like in this picture, like when the guy is getting ready, here we go. And then like the giant snakes start popping about the ground and shit. Like honestly, like page 15 and 16, like that double page spread, this could have been the opening to this series. This is a hook. That could have been the hook.
Yeah.
Like you can throw people, like your job is to get people hooked to your story, then start filling them with exposition over time instead of just dumping on the reader at once. Because I'm telling you, with this approach, you are not going to get to 15 volumes because you're going to over talk and you're going to eat. And one of two things is going to happen. You're going to over talk. You're going to over-explain, and then you're going to run out of material, and you're going to hit writer's block, or you're going to end up repeating the same things over and over and over again. You're going to fall into the redundancy trap, you know, and then people are going to get bored from reading the same thing over and over again. I know because I've seen this happen. That's if they finish in the first place.
I'll put it like this, man, and I'm sorry if I'm cutting in. I really need to make this known. Tapperclip, you've got a good amount of followers who are people who are following and watching this podcast who are creators. So I need to stress this. A lot of creators, as you said, Storm, are like the reason they do certain things where it's like, I don't like this because I want to do this, right? The reason a lot of your favorite manga, a lot of anime, a lot of different series, right, they do certain things that you think is pointless. The reason they do it is because it's necessary. A lot of people think, wait, is what?
Oh, yeah. You know, I know exactly where you're going with this. May I?
Yeah.
Okay. You've watched your share of anime-tubers reviewing stuff, right?
Yes.
And you've heard much people complain about tropes and formulas, right?
Oh, yes.
You want to know why? This is something that basically what number one manga is saying is to all the lovely viewers watching this, tropes and patterns exist for a reason. And the reason why they exist is because they work.
Yes, especially in a manga space where these things are integral to the flow and the pacing. And I'm going to repeat that. It's integral to the flow and the pacing of your manga. If you do not get down a seamless flow and pace to your manga, a reader is going to put that down within the span of 5 pages. They will drop it. You need to understand that there is a certain flow to panels, the simplification of these different things. Here in this manga, the panel spread is 5. I think that
Mhm.
there's still work that needs to be made. But the panel, like, there's not like 8 panels in one page. Like, thank God, that's not a problem. But in terms of the exposition, in terms of characters just talk, here's my problem with that. We know, and we don't have to mention them. We don't have to say no. We know a mangaka that just goes on for pages and just talks, right? We know that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And we also know that that doesn't result in a successful or a enjoyable experience when reading the manga. So the problem here is you got to take some of that dialogue out and you got to move the story forward, because if you don't do that, we're going to be sitting here reading exposition and dialogue bubbles for 12 pages, regardless of how beautiful the scenery is. And I keep saying this. I'm a proponent that you need to focus on your paneling and your characters more than you need to focus on your backgrounds. That's an artistic thing. But at the same time, I'll be 1,000% honest, bro. We talk about backgrounds, we talk about world building all the time in terms of what we're going to praise here in the West. I must say, when people talk about One Piece, do they talk about the backgrounds and the world building in terms of their favorite moments? Do they talk about that?
Yeah, it's
Like,
yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, it's
like I'm gonna finish off on this. Basically, they focus on what their favorite moment from their characters are, what their favorite moment from the situations and the battles and the dramatic moments. Let's imagine you take all of those characters and you erase them from the One Piece world, and you have nothing but a narrator talking about the world building of the One Piece world. Would that be interesting?
It's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
That's a very integral part of manga, of creating manga, that a lot of people miss, is that they think that the characters are unimportant to making manga. They think that writing the themes and doing the world building and writing the lore and making great backgrounds, they think that's what makes great manga. No, it does not. In fact, it makes a boring experience. If, like I say this all the time. I say this a lot to Storm. I don't think I've said this to Marshall before. Marshall, you can cut it anytime you want to, by the way. I know I ramble, but I say this a lot. If you're gonna focus on pretty art, pretty backgrounds, might as well draw a fucking picture book, bro. Realistically, you might as well just draw a picture book and sell that. People will buy that.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on one more thing.
Yeah.
I know we got other thing. Because we talk, we do this when we wrap it up, you know, we talk all of this. Okay, don't over focus on the backgrounds, don't focus on the exposition and the world building without establishing your characters first. I know a lot of people watching this are going to be like, well, how the hell do I do that? How the hell do I write characters that are engaging? It's a very simple. I'm a give y'all the game right here. Okay. You exaggerate that. I'm gonna use that T word that everybody seems to hate so much. Tropes. It does not matter. And there are a couple. Let me clear up a couple misconceptions about tropes. First of all, everything's a trope. There is no such thing as an original trope. There is no such thing as an original character personality. Period. That's the first thing. Second thing, the reason why tropes exist is because you exaggerate a character's personality to get people to pay attention. Because there's a big misconception about anime. A lot of Japanese people do not act like the anime characters do in the series. Do not. It's the same thing over here. We don't act like a lot of the characters. We don't act like the characters that we watch in fucking movies and shit. Characters are written a certain way to get people to pay attention. I'll give you an example. The reason a lot of people hate the hot-headed protagonist. But the reason why the hot-headed protagonist is such a staple in battle shonen is because the character is so overbearing, it literally, you can't look away. Or like the tsundere. She's so a tsundere, male or female, is so obnoxious and stubborn in their refusal to be open and vulnerable that it forces you to sit there tapping your foot, waiting for them to say what they really mean. These are not formulas that people repackage and repurpose over and over and over again because they're lazy. No, they do it because they're tried and true. If you I'll put it to you like this. And we can end off on this.
Yeah.
Which person are you going to talk to in a room? The person who is outspoken and is willing to share themselves? Or are you going to look at the person who hides in the dark corner of the room, not saying anything? Who are you going to be more inclined to talk to?
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, I'm not saying Canadian Turtle specifically is doing this. I think that a lot of creators will get really fixated on, I need to draw a good background and I'm going to try to avoid tropes. I think it's because that will shape what they think is a good manga. Like where you flip through something and you think, oh wow, this is just like a bunch of like shoujo bubbles and bullshit. but I am better than that. I can draw a background, so I'm going to flex where I can. And again, not picking on Canadian Turtle for this, but I think that is a mindset where it's like, well, I'm creating and I could see where other creators are falling short, so I'm going to elevate myself. And I think it's a matter of humbling yourself and being honest and being like, well, you're not like, just because you're able to identify these aspects of the creative process, it doesn't mean that you are one who's like, you're not going to be the one who's going to make the next leap forward in your medium. And I think that just being more vulnerable and feel and not and kind of like putting yourself, not so much putting yourself down, but realizing like that you're more on that same level. Like, just because you can identify something wrong with another manga doesn't mean you are necessarily doing something better than that, if that makes sense. Because I think that's where the trope repulsion comes from. But yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I appreciate, for lack of a better term, I appreciate you being my anger translator. I do like Canadian Turtle, so I'm going to be a little soft on him. I'll be real.
Extremely talented artist. And
oh yeah,
I would agree. Yeah.
the lore does seem interesting. The character element is what's missing.
Yeah. I big time agree. Yeah, I guess we should move on to the other pitches. Let's see. Yeah, we'll have a little less to say about these because they didn't send a manga for us to yap about. But all right, so the next one. So your name, pen name, pronouns, which fictional characters you most want to marry. And the next one we have is Kenzie or Mayday from Space, she, her pronouns, and Moth marriage going strong, meaning she is married to the Mothman. And what is your elevator pitch? Yeah. What's your elevator pitch given in the form of series meets series? And she says Justice League or generic superhero comics meets The Awakening by Michael Carroll meets A Lighthearted The Boys. All right. And summarize your potential series in one paragraph. And she says, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's the superhumans. Birds follows the story of Owl number 6, the no-name bird that's appeared and taken up the vacant hero title of the Owls. A legacy of heroic birds, 5 generations strong. 6 quickly finds the reigning Feather Foundation members much more hostile than their dreams had pictured them. And when the 5th owl, Barn, emerges from hiding to confront 6, their shoulders are crushed under the hidden truth of the Feather Foundation and the terrible truth of all birds. And for images, she says she's going to DM me some resources later. Just wanted to get this out there in time. All right, I dig it. And for socials and anything you want to plug, Mayday from Space says she is Mayday from Space everywhere, but she says, please check out my friends Gigadonk, Yukin Linux, and Isabel Inc. All right, very cool. Nice to see you giving the friends a shout out. All right. So Gigadonk is one of my favorite indie YouTubers. I don't want to go on a whole Gigadonk spiel, but yeah, she does a lot of very cool, like, introspective vlogging and just sharing her feelings. There was one particularly good video that she did about going to see her favorite band, which I know I'm not really pitching it well, but like when I watched this, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best like travel vlogs I've ever seen. Like, just how she's able to put her emotions out there is very satisfying. But that's not what we're here for. I want to talk about this elevator pitch. Justice League meets The Awakening by Michael Carroll meets A Lighthearted The Boys. What does everyone think about that?
I actually really like the Justice League in meets The Awakening by Michael Carroll's, and then it kind of meets A Lighthearted The Boys, which I'm like, what does the lighthearted mean?
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
I like the just the kind of punchline with the last one meets The Lighthearted The Boys.
Yeah.
The lighthearted the boys part, I'm definitely like I'm thinking that it's less like cynical. And it's more like, yeah, we're gonna parody superheroes, but we're not gonna make some like cynical judgment on a train running into somebody and blowing up somebody, like, you know, because that's reality type thing. Like, I don't think they're gonna really hit us with that kind of stuff, but it's more so, dang, dude, do you ever like get exhausted? You know, when like you run like from state to state? It's like, well, you know, kinda, but I'm Gatorade. It's just like that's kind of like what I'm assuming, like lighthearted the boys, type of vibe. I will be honest with this, and I'm gonna be honest with this. Like, I saw this with the Naruto meets Attack on Titan. I am not necessarily the biggest fan of the pitching style, where it's like we're trying to have something meet the thing. It's like, if you're pitching something to me, I'd rather you pitch me the story as opposed to what you're comparing it to.
I'll let you in. I'll let you in on a secret. I hate the elevator pitch method. Like, I know that's what this show is formatted around. I like little peek behind the curtain. I think it's terrible. I think it is one of like, I think it's just detrimental to the creative process, which but that's kind of like my hope for this is like, okay, you will get out the shittiest version of your idea, and then you come back next month and we will actually see the completed version. Oh yeah. No, I get you. Yeah, I get you.
I think that the pitch is fine. I think that if you're giving me that pitch and you're basically letting me know, "Ayo, this is essentially a parody of traditional superhero comics and stuff like that,"
Mhm.
that's what I very much would like to hear, because it's like, yeah. I want to. Okay, now I get the gist going. Now I get the gist. So I get the understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to say than just trying to compare it to something. Because here's the problem that I have with this direct comparison pitch method.
Mhm.
No. It's very simple. Whenever you say it's, let's say, like Batman meets, I don't know, Hikaru no Go, right?
Yeah.
The series, you don't think of the story that's being pitched. You think about the two series that were mentioned in the pitch.
Yeah.
So already we're not focused on the IP that's being pitched.
Mm-hmm.
That will be my problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Like just say superhero, just say superhero parody that makes fun of the more cynical elements or doesn't have as much cynical elements as a dark superhero story.
Yeah.
That's all you have.
I think for this one, I would be curious, like what's the degree of cynicism that you're aiming for with this, if any at all? Like, 'cause yeah, a lighthearted The Boys, that's a very interesting choice. I think The Boys is like, of everything here, that's probably the one I'm the most familiar with. Because like I'm just trying to like conceptualize what would that look like. I do like it sounds more like you're trying to do like a more serious, I don't know if serious is the right word, but more of a political intrigue kind of story with a little less violence than The Boys. That's kind of my initial impression of just what you're getting out there. It might be wrong. Yeah. Hey, if anyone else wants to jump in, give their thoughts.
Well, I should have put that in the pitch. Put it in the pitch.
Yeah.
No offense to Kenzie. No offense to Kenzie-san at all. Like, no shade.
Mm-hmm.
I just say, like, like next time, like it's not, mind you, it's not. Well, no, it's not her fault. She was just following.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually do find this concept very interesting. Like, comparisons aside, I would like.
Oh yeah. I'm curious how much the like bird-based powers play into this. Like, what is the mechanisms for being a superhuman in this world? Is, when you say the lighthearted The Boys, is it like, are you going to do like Compound V, a subplot in this to explain how everyone got their powers? Or is it like a mutation, like more of a genetic mutation? Or
are we being injected with bird DNA like Sam?
Yeah.
From
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
I don't know why, but when they say comedy, I think of the Wolverine. Death.
Yeah.
Like that's what comes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you got your cynical characters, and then you got your more goofy comic relief character that'll offset the more cynical.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's just I could be an asshole and be totally off.
No, it's all good. Yeah. Unfortunately, since we didn't get the images on time, not a whole lot more we can pick at this for. If there's anything else anyone wants to say before we move on to the next one.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So last pitch for the day, we have Crystalline Phos, she, her pronouns, and Mary Kaiji Ito. And what is your elevator pitch? And she says, Deltarune meets Alice in Wonderland. And summarize your potential series in one paragraph. She says, pitch is a character-focused light novel titled Alice Down the Meta Hole. Alice falls down a hole into a strange new dreamlike world. The world is based around Alice's psyche the same way a dream is, where it may appear that there is no rhyme or reason, but the connections are all based on Alice's schemas. Alice will face various trials based on a twisted reflection of her reality. In trying to escape this world, Alice will gain a better understanding of herself in the world, though her newfound confidence also makes her uncertain of her place in either world. That is so cool. Yeah. And before we start yapping, for anything she wants to plug, she says Crystalline Phos on YouTube. She is making more YouTube videos and vlogs lately. They're very cool. Definitely check those out. And so yeah, but yeah, as for the pitch, this is really cool. I'm gonna pass the mic. Who wants to talk about this?
Real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm bad with who's pitch again?
Crystalline Phos.
Crystalline Phos. What I want you to do is this: go to Instagram, go to number one manga, DM me. I would love to read your stuff. I would love to read directly. Just whatever you have. And it doesn't matter if it's just bios. If you have chapters done, if you have rough drafts, I would love to read it. Love to give my direct thoughts. I'd love to just, I'd love to chat it up because this is an interesting idea. Typically, in case you didn't know, I myself have not officially published a light novel. However, I have written more than 30 chapters of one of my stories.
Wow.
And written wise, I'm very big on the writing type aspect of things because I just love to read other people's stories. Like I always say this, I like to read people's stories or hear about people's stories because it's like meeting another person. So when I'm reading this, I'm getting a sense of whimsy. I'm getting a sense of creative imagination. What I mean by that is this reminds me of the feeling of when you watch a Disney movie for the first time, or when you check out something that is very much not fantasy, but fictitious, fable-like. The feeling of something that is more something out of a storybook, something that is out of fiction, as opposed to your knights and dragons and your wizards and that kind of stuff. You're not really getting that. You're more so getting something that is more something you read out of a children's book. And I think that tells me a lot about the creator, and that tells me a lot about what the direction for the story is. So I'm if you can't tell, I love this idea. I love the long-term explanation they gave. I love the idea behind the story. I just want to know. I want to know more. That's why I'm trying to plug this individual to my Instagram so I could speak with them. I want to know more. Now you have me interested. I would love to know more about your work. Are you going for something that's more so a mature type of thing? Are you going for something that's a deconstruction of the more storybook type of style? Are you going for something more like how Deltarune is, or how what's it called? Undertale is a Deltarune, where it's more indie. It's more you're going for something that's more quirky. I would love to know more about this type of work. I'm very interested. That's my take on that.
Yeah.
I will add to that.
Oh, good.
On Instagram, in all lowercase letters, Stormwraith _ and you can holler at your boy. I will second that. I do want to read this because I'm like, this does sound hype. Here's the thing that caught when they say the world is based around Alice's psyche the same way a dream is, where dreams may appear, that there are no rhyme or reason. I think the reason why that particular line caught me so much is because there is so much you can do with that.
Yeah.
I can this person clearly, I could be wrong, but it sounds like they're going to do something where things don't seem to make sense. But when you look at this sounds like the type of story, and I think what got me hyped is this sounds like it could be the type of story where random shit just happens. Like she just runs into a mushroom cloud and it explodes. And then she starts getting angry or something like that. And it's like, oh, well, maybe it's because she has she's going off and it's supposed to be hee hoo ha funny scene, or oh, she does crazy cuts the fucking mushroom down after it explodes. And then it's like she can't control her emotion, or maybe there's some undiagnosed anger, which is why she ran into the mushroom in the first place. I love psychological deconstruction.
Yeah.
We knees for that shit.
And then Marshall, what were your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I really liked the part that got me. She understanding in trying to escape this world, Alice will gain a better understanding of herself and the world through her newfound confidence. Also makes her uncertain of her place in either world. That last part for me, is what really excited me, because in our regular everyday life, it's the exact same thing. When we start getting into a field, we're uncertain if we're frauds or not. That sort of am I really about this? Can I really do this thing? Oh, I'm fraud in this and this. And it's I think what's cool is, even if she doesn't understand if it's a dream or this thing, or that it's control, or that she's really in control and how powerful she is, there's going to be times where she feels fear and her environment reflects that. And there's going to be time where this character feels happiness, or characters around her feels happiness, or maybe she wants something good or bad for certain things. And maybe those things might almost play out, but that subconscious part of her mind can also do other things in the world. So it's kind of it's going to be really cool to kind of see this. So I mean, I'm just excited to see where it goes. And this pitch sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything that's out of all the other pitches, if I had to compare them, this one has me the most intrigued just off of pitch alone. based on what it's actually, telling me about the character. And this goes back to what Number One and Stormrave were saying very much in detail earlier. Tell me about your character, tell me about your story, and make it interesting.
Yeah,
Give it something to where it's
Right.
give it something interesting to where I can latch onto. And that last part, like I said, gain a better understanding of herself and the world. I was like, okay, that's got me. But then through her newfound confidence also makes her uncertain. I was like, oh, you got me. I'm hooked. I'm here for this. So
yeah.
Tell me about your characters. Tell me about your story, man. Tell me about your story. Tell me about your characters. That's what works. That's what works every time. That works every time.
Yeah.
If you tape or clip in Lumebento, we have this running joke where they say, tell me about your story, because a lot of people, when they pitch their stories, they tend to tell us about everything except their characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we have the running joke. Tell me about your character.
Yeah, this definitely is a strong character-driven story. I definitely agreed with everything I've heard here. I think my one question is the kind of writing style that you're going to use for this story. Because when you're making a work about the dream world, it's much easier to do that with a visual narrative. And you said that this wants to be a light novel, which is primarily text-based. So I wonder how what kind of surrealist writing that you're going to do. There was a book, I forgot the name. It was originally written in Spanish that I read about lucid dreaming, and it was very that book was very interesting in the way that it weaves the character through different, and if I happen to remember it, I'll put it on screen. But I feel like saying that it's also partially inspired by Deltarune, it's is this character going to be given different surrealist levels to clear, and in each level I'm gonna use the most boomer understanding of Deltarune. I'm so sorry. I know it's more of a JRPG style. Yeah, but it where you have different things obstacles to clear, and and the obstacles are a metaphor for what's going on in her life. It's very difficult to convey to someone oh, this is what my dream feels, where it's dream talk that can be pretty rough. If personally, I really like hearing about people's dreams and what goes on and different dream interpretations. I know that's not everyone's bag. But then you look at something PlayStation 1 classic LSD dream emulator and works like that, where it's just the weirdest shit being thrown at the player, one after the other. And it could be hard to do that in text form. But I think that if I know okay, well, it's the world of dreams, anything can happen. I don't know if you want to establish right away to the reader hey, this is the dream world, but here's the rules. That might be going against what you're trying to do, where it's this kind of free form exploration of the psyche. I think that as long as your pacing is kept snappy, because if you can write well, you can do pretty much anything. But I would be curious how you plan on telling this story, if that makes sense.
It sounds to me like this person has a lot of confidence in their writing ability, their writing skill. The key, and this is to anybody who's trying to write, the number one Manga's writing tip here, right? In terms of writing different stuff. It's a matter of your vocabulary knowledge, not necessarily you stringing words together. If you have a good amount of vocabulary knowledge, you can basically substitute certain words for other words, as well as basically explain and expand upon an aspect without having to repeat yourself. So a good example, let's say somebody in a book, a regular person would write, the boy ran across the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that the boy ran across the street. We have a visualization of that, but we don't have any real adjectives or vocabulary to really help out with that. So the best way to go out with that, off the top of my head, because I'm freestyling at this point, right?
Yeah.
So the boy ran across the street in a hurry. The young man sprinted at top speed across the road. That's a completely different visualization than saying the same, what I mean? So most people, when they're writing stories, they tend to be more limited because they want to make the action very concise, but they also don't want to sound pretentious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be 1,000% honest with you. If you're writing a written story, you must be pretentious. If you're not pretentious, it's not interesting.
It's interesting.
You have to have that pretentiousness within yourself, because if you have that pretentiousness, that means you're basically illustrating the story in someone else's mind without having to pick up a pen. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Huh. I've never thought of it that way. That's interesting. Huh.
Anybody else got anything to say about this wonderful pitch?
Yeah, this was a pretty solid pitch all around, but anyone else?
I like it so much that it's inspired an overwhelming amount of confidence in this creator's ability to write.
Yes. Yeah. I think that about wraps it up. I want to apologize to Mayday from Space. I'm sorry I didn't have as much to say about yours. I'm not as up with superhero stories, so I had a little less feedback to give. So hopefully you don't feel too hurt that every episode there's going to be one that gets a little less time than the others. I do apologize that yours was the one this time, but this was a lot of fun. If everyone wants to go around, let people know where they can find you, how they can follow you.
Yeah. I'll just say, if you want to follow martial arts, it's at martial arts, MARSHULARTZ, and then just underscore. And that's on Twitter and Instagram, the two platforms that I'm mainly on. And then on at Lumebento LLC is kind of everywhere. We're on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You just got to type in at Lumebento, LUMEBENTO LLC, and you should be able to find it.
Then is your website still lumebento.net?
Yes.
Awesome.
Lumebento.net. You can go read Penguin Boy, Aku Ronin, Recusant, the recently released Psycho. You can go read any of the older stories that me and Yuki have, any of the one-shots on there, and soon to be light novels.
Nice.
Sure. You can find me. I'll do it like this. The only place you're going to find me is Instagram. I ain't got any other social medias when it comes to this kind of stuff, so you're just going to have to deal with it. Anyway. You're going to see, all you got to do is just go on Instagram. As I said earlier, number one manga, you would say that with the word number, the number one, and then manga. You don't want to put number and then spell one. You just want to put the word number, the number one, and then manga at the end.
Yeah.
That's that. You can find me there, and be sure to also follow the Lumebento LLC page, because that's where a lot of our collaborative projects and stuff come up. Also, go read Penguin Boy and go read Recusant, and please go read Psyche. And if you have enough energy in the tank to go read Akaronin still, go check that out last, because I want you guys to check out my homie stuff. I want to check the homie stuff out.
Yeah.
But yeah, number one manga at Instagram. That's it.
Awesome.
And last but first, in all lowercase letters, Stormrave_92. That's for Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. My YouTube channel is still under construction, but I will be back on there for a couple months. That's for the folks who watching this, from if any of my fans actually watched it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone, for showing up, doing this episode. This was a lot of fun. I'm really happy that I could get everyone's perspective. Hopefully the people who submitted got something out of this. Hopefully the onlookers who did not submit, hopefully they're able to take some wisdom with them as well.
It was fun. Everybody had amazing stories.
Yeah.
For the art that we did get to see that went along with it, those were also awesome. And we hope that, at least I'm going to speak for myself, and I'm also going to speak for everybody. None of this, I don't want any of it to discourage you. I want all of it to be something you think about and you heavily see where it can fit within your logic of your mind when being a creative, because we're just creatives ourselves, giving insight and giving feedback and giving critiques where we think it really fits. And
that's a good note to end off on. And anyone who wants to submit next time, this is something I do for my YouTube members. So once you sign up, if you go in the membership tab, there will be the form to submit your pitch or your completed work, and we look forward to seeing your stuff next time. Thank you all so much.